My wedding dress was hanging in the living room, glowing softly under the sunlight that poured through the window. Ivory lace, hand-stitched sleeves, delicate but strong. Just like I wanted to feel on the day I finally became a bride. I'd invited my family over to see it. Just a small moment. Something I thought we'd remember. My dad walked in first, followed by my sister Ivy. She barely looked at me. Her eyes went straight to the dress. I was beaming, heart full. "Isn't it beautiful?" I asked. Dad didn't smile. He sat down, quiet, heavy, like he was about to deliver bad news. And then he did. "I've been thinking," he said, carefully. "It's your duty to consider what's best for the family." Ivy's been struggling. Ivy tilted her head, smiling like the cat who already swallowed the canary. Dad continued, "She's always been special. You know that. This wedding, maybe it should be hers." My ears rang. I thought I misheard. I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "She's fragile," he said. "You've always had more strength. You can get married anytime. But Ivy, she needs this now." I stared at him, then at her, and Ivy had the audacity to shrug and say, "He's a good man, Ratch. I think he'd be happier with me." She was talking about Lucas, my fiancé, my wedding. No shame, no guilt. And my mother? Silent. Not even in the room. Like she knew what was coming and didn't want to look me in the eye. They weren't asking me to share something. They were asking me to give it up. All of it. The venue I picked. The date I chose. The man I loved. And what's worse, they thought I would. Because I always had. I looked down at the engagement ring Lucas had picked with shaking hands and more love than anyone in that room had ever shown me. I looked back up. My voice didn't shake. "Okay," I said quietly. "You can stop planning. Because none of you are coming." Ivy blinked. "What?" "You're uninvited," I said. "All of you." Then I picked up the dress, my dress, walked out of my childhood home, and shut the door behind me. My name is Rachel Moore. And from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me. Because when they tried to give my wedding to my sister, I didn't just take it back. I took everything they thought I'd sacrifice. I've spent most of my life being asked to understand. Understand Ivy's condition. Understand Ivy's moods. Understand that Ivy can't handle pressure the way you can. I was 5 years old when I first noticed it. Ivy had a meltdown in the grocery store because they were out of the cereal she liked. She screamed, kicked the cart, threw herself on the floor. My mother turned to me and said, "Rachel, can you be a big girl and let her have your snack too? You know she's sensitive." That's what I was raised to be, the big girl. The one who gave up her portion. The one who didn't complain. The one who understood. When Ivy didn't want to share a room growing up, I was moved to the attic. When she failed her driving test, they blamed the instructor. When she dropped out of college after 2 semesters, my parents paid for her wellness retreat with the money I had been saving for my first apartment. I didn't protest. Not once. Because every time I tried, I was told the same thing. It's not her fault. She's delicate. You're strong. She needs more support than you do. And I believed it. I really did. I bent. I adjusted. I minimized my own wins so they wouldn't outshine her. When I got into grad school, my parents asked me not to post about it. It might make Ivy feel like she's falling behind. So I didn't. I celebrated quietly. Alone. When Ivy's Etsy shop failed, I helped pay off her vendor debt. When she totaled her car, I co-signed a lease for a new one. When she wanted to move to LA to find herself, I let her crash in my apartment while she figured things out. She stayed for 8 months, didn't pay rent once, used my skincare, took my clothes, flirted with my coworkers. But I was always reminded she's family. She's special. She didn't mean it. So when my dad asked me to hand her my wedding, my fiancé, my joy, I shouldn't have been surprised. They'd trained me for that moment my entire life. And I almost did it. Out of reflex, out of habit, out of guilt. But something about the way Ivy smirked, the way she sat there, already imagining herself in my dress, woke something up in me, a voice I hadn't heard since childhood. And it said, "You've given them everything. This time, Keep something for yourself. Lucas didn't say a word when I told him. He just sat across from me on the couch, hands steepled, jaw tight, as I repeated the words my father said. It's your duty. Ivy's special. Give her your wedding. And then I added Ivy's part. He'd be happier with me anyway. Lucas blinked, slowly, like he was trying to process whether he was angry or just disgusted. Then he said, "Did they forget I was part of this wedding?" I shrugged. "I think they never thought of you as a person, just part of the package." He leaned forward. "Rachel, I love you. I asked you to marry me. I don't care what they think." "I know," I said softly. But it wasn't about what Lucas thought. It was about what they never did. The next few days felt like slow-motion freefall. Ivy posted a photo on Instagram. Her in my wedding dress. My dress. Captioned, "Trying something new. Manifesting what's meant to be ring sparkles." It wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. She had no shame. She truly believed she could have whatever she wanted, because she always had. And then the messages started. My aunt texted, "Can't you just let her have this one moment? She's struggled her whole life." A family friend commented under my engagement photo, "Weddings come and go, but sisters are forever. Be the bigger person, Ratch. Be the bigger person." I could write a book called That Phrase Killed Me. Even my mother, who hadn't spoken since the whole thing began, called me one night and said, "You know Ivy doesn't cope well with disappointment. Please don't escalate things." Escalate things? I just uninvited them from my wedding after they tried to hand it to my sister like a spare piece of jewelry. But that was the pattern, wasn't it? Me protecting Ivy from pain. Me being reasonable. Me giving up and giving in. And all the while, no one noticed I was grieving the loss of my own joy. My own ceremony. My own family. They didn't see me crying in the bathroom. Or how I returned the original invitations in silence. Or how I told the florist to put the order on hold, without a refund. They were blind to my joy because they never thought I was entitled to it. And that was when the rage cooled. And clarity took its place. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to disappear from their narrative and write one where I was no longer the footnote to Ivy's chaos. 2 days after the Instagram post, I deleted every trace of my original wedding plan. The shared calendar? Gone. The guest list spreadsheet? Wiped clean. The family WhatsApp group? Muted. Then archived. And then I sat at my laptop with a fresh document and typed 2 words. Start over. Lucas sat beside me. No pressure, no questions. Just support. We began reimagining our day, not around what was expected, but around what we actually wanted. A smaller ceremony. Outdoors. Intimate. No crowd of judging relatives. No parents who saw me as a spare part. No sister who thought she could wear my dress and steal my future. We changed the date. Moved the venue to a private estate 2 towns over, one Ivy would never think to look up. We chose a sunset time slot. We rebooked a new photographer. We reprinted invitations with a whole new vibe. But most importantly, we made a new guest list. People who had loved us well. Friends who called to check in, not just to gossip. My mentor from college. Lucas's childhood best friend who once said, "You're the first person who makes him breathe easier." We sent invites directly. No public posts. No mailing list through family. We told guests, "Please don't share. This wedding is sacred." And it was. Not because it was grand, but because it was finally ours. My dress, my vows, my joy, untouched by guilt. I even picked a new song for the walk down the aisle. A softer one. One that felt like a goodbye to everything I used to carry. The day before our wedding, I sent one final message. To my parents. To Ivy. It said, "The wedding has moved. You will not be receiving the new location. There is nothing left for you to take. I don't need your blessing. I just needed your absence." I didn't send it to hurt them. I sent it to reclaim something I didn't even realize I had surrendered. My name. My love. My voice. And as Lucas kissed my forehead that night and whispered, "You ready for tomorrow?" I smiled and said, "I've never been more ready for anything." The original wedding date arrived like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Ivy posted a photo of herself that morning, sipping coffee, face full of makeup, captioned, "Today's the day," as if she'd manifested her way into someone else's life. My father reposted it on his story with, "Proud of my girls. Big day for the family." Lucas and I saw it from the dressing room of our real wedding venue, a sun-drenched garden lined with white orchids and soft lanterns. I was already in my gown. A new one. Simpler. Softer. Mine. No family heirlooms. No veil borrowed from a mother who didn't defend me. Our officiant was a friend who'd known Lucas and me since we were just co-workers eating lunch out of paper bags. The seats were filled, but only with people who knew what we'd survived. Who knew this wasn't just a wedding. It was a reclamation. While I was adjusting my bouquet, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a florist. "Hi, Rachel. Just confirming we canceled the arrangement at the old venue per your request." Some guests still showed up confused. I pictured it, my father, standing in a dark, undecorated ballroom, waiting for a wedding that would never happen. Ivy, dressed in my first gown, holding a bouquet she arranged herself, wondering why the music never played. And then another message popped up from an old high school friend who I hadn't invited. "Hey, your sister's having a meltdown outside the Elmview Hotel. She's screaming at the staff saying it's her wedding and everyone's late." I handed the phone to Lucas. He read it, laughed once, then kissed my hand. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded. We walked toward the archway, lined with friends who stood as I entered, not out of obligation, but joy. I never once thought about who wasn't there, because I finally realized you don't need the people who taught you to disappear. You need the ones who help you take up space. After the ceremony, we posted one photo. Just one. It was us under the lanterns, holding hands, smiling without fear. The caption read, "Surrounded by love. No guilt invited. No mention of what happened. No retaliation. Just truth." The comment section filled fast. "You look so peaceful. This is what happiness looks like." Real love doesn't come with terms. My father didn't comment. My mother didn't call. Ivy deleted all her posts by the end of the night. And I danced. For the first time, not because I was expected to show up, but because I chose to. And that made all the difference. The fallout didn't happen immediately. That would have been too easy. It trickled in one awkward message at a time. My cousin Josh texted first. "Hey, were you actually married this weekend? I thought I was going to Ivy's wedding." Then my dad's coworker commented under our photo. "Congratulations, Rachel. Beautiful wedding. Surprised your folks didn't mention the change." Publicly, my family tried to spin it. They claimed I had a breakdown, that I changed the wedding plans without telling anyone. Ivy posted a crying selfie with a caption. "Some people would rather see you sad than see you shine. I'll rise anyway." But the story didn't stick, because while they were busy managing optics, the truth was unraveling everywhere. Guests from the original wedding day started sharing what they saw. Ivy throwing a tantrum in the hotel parking lot. My dad yelling at the hotel staff for not fixing it. My mom sobbing on a bench, whispering, "She actually did it, she went through with it." Meanwhile, my real guests were posting joy, laughter, candids, dancing under fairy lights. People noticed. And people talked. Relatives who had once sided with my parents quietly reached out. One aunt messaged me, "I'm sorry. I see it now. I should have spoken up years ago." Even friends of Ivy's started distancing themselves. Screenshots of her messages trying to recruit sympathy were shared in group chats. She stole the wedding. That was meant to be mine. But all anyone could ask was, "Wait, wasn't that her sister's fiancé?" She tried to take her man? The shift was delicious. Not because I craved revenge, but because justice doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes it just needs silence. The kind of silence I gave them when they showed up at the wrong place. The kind of silence I gave them when they realized the power had shifted. The kind of silence they used to punish me turned into my most powerful weapon. Then, one rainy afternoon, Ivy showed up at my doorstep. Makeup smudged, eyes red, dress clinging to her like a ghost she couldn't shake. She held out her phone. "You've ruined everything. I can't go anywhere without people whispering." I didn't move, didn't flinch. She sobbed. "I just wanted to be seen. You always had it together. I didn't know how to be that." For a brief moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. Then I said, "You didn't want to be seen, Ivy. You wanted to take. And you thought I'd let you again." I stepped back and closed the door. Gently. Without a single word more. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a door that stays shut. I used to think that healing would look like forgiveness. Like mended ties. Reunions. Smiling family dinners. But I learned that sometimes healing means never going back to the same table where they served you shame and called it tradition. After the wedding, I went quiet online. No long posts. No explainers. Just peace. And it was loud in its own way. Lucas and I spent our honeymoon hiking through forests in silence, cooking meals barefoot in a cabin, making promises without pressure. No parents. No drama. No guilt. Just joy that didn't ask for permission. When we got home, I legally changed my name to Rachel Moore. Not because I didn't value my family name, but because I needed to build something that was mine. Unedited. Untouched. Free. I started journaling again. Then blogging. What began as a quiet online diary turned into something bigger. A digital space for women like me. For the daughters told to be smaller. For the sisters erased in the shadow of the fragile one. I called it uninvited. Every post was raw. No fluff. No fake empowerment quotes. Just honesty. Posts like, they didn't ask me how I was. They just asked me to step aside. Love that comes with a receipt isn't love. It's a transaction. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is shut the door without slamming it. The response was overwhelming. Emails, DMs, women from around the world writing. "You told my story. I didn't know anyone else felt like this. Your wedding post gave me the courage to call off mine." I started getting invited to speak on panels, podcasts, community events, not as the girl who got walked over, but as the woman who finally stood up. Lucas would listen from the back of the room, eyes warm, never needing to be the center of anything, because he knew I'd had enough of being erased. He'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "There she is." And I'd smile, because for the first time in my life, I recognized the woman everyone was seeing. Not the fixer. Not the giver. Not the sacrifice. Rachel Moore. Unedited. Our first anniversary arrived on a quiet Sunday. No grand plans. No crowds. Just me, Lucas, and the life we built on the ashes of everything they tried to take. I spent the morning planting jasmine in our backyard. The same flower that had lined the aisle at our wedding. It's strange how something as delicate as a petal can remind you of power, of softness that stood its ground. We didn't go out that night. We stayed in, slow-cooked dinner, played old vinyls, danced in the living room. Lucas held me close and whispered, "1 year, and I'd still choose you in a room full of chaos." I laughed. "Let's not invite the chaos this time." He kissed my forehead. "Deal." Later, as I sat scrolling through old photos from that day, I stumbled upon one I hadn't posted before. Me, walking down the aisle alone. Head high, dress flowing, sunlight kissing my cheek. No father to give me away. No sister waiting to interrupt. Just me, reclaiming the space I was told I didn't deserve. I posted it with a short caption. "The day I chose myself." Minutes later, a message pinged in my inbox. It was from someone I didn't know. Her name was Maya. She wrote, "I found her blog 3 months ago. I was planning a wedding I didn't even want, just to please a family that never really saw me. Then I read your story. I canceled everything. I thought I'd feel like a failure. But instead, I feel free. Thank you for showing me what choosing yourself can look like." I stared at the message for a long time, because that's what this had always been about. Not revenge, not exposure, not even vindication, but freedom. Freedom from family dynamics that shrink you. Freedom from guilt disguised as love. Freedom from applause that only comes when you're giving more than you can bear. That wedding? It didn't just unite me with Lucas. It saved me. It gave me a door to walk through, one that I didn't have to leave open for anyone who didn't respect it. And now I know this. The most powerful vows are the ones you make to yourself. To stop begging for space. To stop funding your own pain. To stop confusing being the bigger person with being the silent one. They thought taking my wedding would break me. But in the end, it made me whole, because what they tried to ruin became the beginning of everything I was always meant to be.